This is the first of two videos on predictions. There are several horrific wars happening on Earth at this moment in time. The war in Sudan is one of them. It is catastrophic beyond words, but has garnered little attention. Millions have been displaced, fleeing to neighboring countries that are unstable and that can ill afford refugees. Millions are already in the throes of famine and disease. Mass sexual violence is being inflicted on especially women and children. The ethnic cleansing that began many years ago continues. Please see the link to the UN to see how you can help the crisis in Sudan. Once again, I have put the link below. I started this channel to discuss in simple terms, devoid of dogma, the soul and its journey, the truth that is reincarnation and its facts, how knowledge of these facts can help us to better understand who we are and why we are here in this earthly plane, thus empowering us, giving us agency over our lives. This knowledge and its understanding will give us the wisdom necessary to avoid yielding our free will to others. Each man is responsible for the well-being of their soul. While there have been many periods of transition, and this includes environmental, during man's sojourn on earth, there have been fewer periods of greater transitions. This period in which we now find ourselves is one of those greater, fewer periods of transition. In December 2023, I was given a collective of 14 poems presented in the 5th video entitled The Collective of History on Rewind. These poems covered war, specifically the war on Gaza. These poems gave birth to the book A Broken Record, History on Rewind, War Through the Eyes of the Soul in Poetry, published in February 2024. From this book sprang an essay written in January 2023. This essay sprouted 5 essays, 4 of which are videos on this channel. These essays gave birth to the book, Thoughts on the Past, largely finished in March 2024. While I believe that I had finished this latest book at that time for my guides, I had not. Certain knowledge had yet to unfold, and I am happy to say that it will be available in December of this current year. This, for me, means that as dark as the next few weeks will prove to be, the sun will emerge from behind those very dark clouds. The essays that I have published or uploaded, or the videos, were written and memorialized between January and March 2024. They were posted on my website at the beginning of May 2024 and uploaded to this channel in June 2024. While this channel is neither political nor about predicting events, many things found in these essays, these imaginings and ruminations, have proven to be very accurate indeed. Dead on the money, so to speak. And remember now, this is for entertainment purposes. This is my last video, as instructed by my guides, that I will dedicate to the horrific events in the Middle East as instructed. That is a good sign, although it is as dark as it is now, and about to get more so for a short while. In this video, I will point out the details that have indeed proven to be quite accurate and give other prophecies, visions, messages that I have received that have also proven to be quite accurate as well. I have memorialized each one in different ways, for without memorializing same, how can one prove the veracity of predictions? And of course, if we are cognizant, conscious of history and human nature, we can predict outcomes for mankind, keep doing the same thing and expect different results. Man never learns the good lessons that history offers. Thus history repeats itself, not only in rhyme, but verbatim. There is nothing new under the sun. History is a broken record. The past is history. The present is history. The future is history. Before proceeding with the details that have come to pass, I will make a few comments. I am not without blemish. None of us are. That is why we are here in this earthly plane. I view the world through clear lenses and not rose-colored ones. I am a dreamer, an idealist, but I am also a pragmatist. I believe that we should always carry a carrot, but never forget the stick. Sometimes, as last resort, for the greater good, we have to use the stick. In a world of all imperfect men, without exception, many things are gray and not black and white, so intention matters. I subscribe to no religious system, for it is, as John Adams said, this would be the best of all possible worlds if there were no religion in it. I believe in universal justice and not the partial, selective, impostor justice of man. Universal justice is without favor or fear. There are no exceptions to its rules. With the impostor justice of man, there is an exception to every rule. I believe in the truth. There are no sides to the truth. The truth stands unopposed, not given to my side and your side. And although at times I might appear harsh and critical, for I am like all my brothers on this earth, learning, trying to restore equilibrium to my soul, I believe in unconditional love and forgiveness and redemptive guilt. And when I falter, with humility, I forgive self and try my best to institute corrective action and move on. I know that only with unconditional forgiveness and love of self and others will I be given the wings to fly and be free. At the end of the day, I look in my mirror of self-reflection. It is a mirror with which I have traveled throughout this journey. I am guided by the divine principles of the fatherhood of God, the brotherhood of man, doing unto others as we would have them do unto us, love. That which I do unto my brother, I do unto myself, for I am my brother's keeper. One divine, universal love. And I will add here the correct thing to say, as we would have others do unto us, but my guides insist that I put, we would have them do unto us. And whilst I am critical and harsh of some, it is done with love, hoping that they will do better. I despise war with a passion, and who couldn't guess that? And I despise it with a passion because of what it does to our children. Many of our leaders, when faced with questions about their refusal to actively take the steps to stop the genocide, the slaughter spree, and the butchering and unimaginable horrors and barbaric savagery being inflicted upon tens of thousands of children and babies, reply that the situation is complex. This answer is one of moral cowardice. And I use the word moral for lack of a better word. Lies hide in the webs and mazes of complexity, while the truth lies in simplicity. There is nothing complex about mutilating children and babies into bits and parts, decapitating little girls and their dolls while they sleep in their beds, snatching babies from their mothers and leaving those babies to rot on beds covered with shrapnel, spent shells, and glass, anally raping men with dogs, sniping children and their mothers as they forage for weeds to eat, to stave off Israeli-American complicit starvation, mutilating dehydrated children while they wait in line for water, locking civilians, including the elderly and the disabled, in their homes and lighting them afire, using bulldozers to run over civilians, including children, and then mixing their fresh remains with that of those who were previously slaughtered but not yet buried, until an Israeli specialty stew of the living and the dead mixed with rubble, glass, metal, and wood is produced, setting dogs to bite and feed upon the living and the dead, baiting starving civilians with flour, and then shooting them in their heads or in their legs so they will never be able to stand in line for rations, bombing children, just playing. Just as the IDF, once again, using the same modus operandi in its false flag operation when they killed the Jewish children in the Golan Heights. Don't believe that it was Hezbollah. It was the IDF using rockets that they had retrieved. There's nothing complex about these actions. There's only black and white, without even a speck of gray. There is no moral equivocation. This is not a judgmental statement. This truth is without any sides, no matter the spin, euphemism, and propaganda. I would love to say in my despair, my immense grief and sadness, my heartbrokenness, and yes, at times, rage, fleeting rage, more sadness than anything else, at what I have been witnessing, like most of the world, for too long, in spite of what I know in my spiritual capacity, for I am but human, and the rescue soul that I am will always, always feel empathy and sadness at the suffering, the immense suffering being inflicted upon even babies. And so it would be easy for me, as I look in the faces of Anthony Blinken, Jake Sullivan, Joe Biden, Linda Thomas Greenfield, as she quibbles about dotting already dotted I's, crossing already crossed T's to run out the clock, playing with the lives of the children. Matthew Miller, Brett McGurk, John Kirby, Benjamin Netanyahu, Yoav Gallant, and all those who commit and perpetuate these vile acts, whether in words or deeds, are indeed the faces of pure, unadulterated evil. But I will not, for that would not be true. None of us should believe that. To believe that would be to afford these our brothers. Yes, they are our brothers in this brotherhood of man, a pass, an escape route, a get out of jail free card. Evil is the replacement of the character of the devil, a character that enables us to abscond our responsibility for the incorrect deeds, the spiritual mistakes, big and small, we commit. Demons have replaced the devil, even among those who lash out against religion as a system. But demons are us. There are no demons from any other world, galaxy, planet, or universe that implant evil within us. Each of us is responsible for the well-being of our soul. Each of us was created equal as spirits and given a free will by our Creator, by whatever name we choose to attribute to that Creator, and a conscience to guide that free will. That conscience is our link back to the Creator. That conscience is what makes each of us responsible for our deeds. We cannot blame our king, general, or parents. History teaches us that for many, history begins only at the point at which we have been aggrieved, but never at the point that we have aggrieved others. We are all guilty of that, and this is the case with America and Iran and Israel. America, seen as the power behind a throne that in helping to support was viewed by many as a repressive regime led by the Shah in Iran, aggrieved many in Iran. There was much anti-American sentiment. A popular uprising forced his overthrow and exile. Americans were held hostage and were not released until Jimmy Carter was voted out of office. This is where America starts its history with Iran, and not at the point where Iran and Iranians, most of them, felt aggrieved and was aggrieved by America. America also skips over the horrific war it helped Iraq under Saddam Hussein wage against the theocratic state of Iran, ill-prepared for war, waged by its more militarized neighbor with the help of perhaps Even at that time, the most powerful country, even though the Soviet Union was viewed in many ways, at least militarily, on par with its nuclear arsenal. Some believe that perhaps more than 1 million Iranians perished. Millions were wounded and maimed. Many became addicts. On both sides, there were tens of thousands of child soldiers. Iraq employed chemical weapons against Iran. Some of those chemical weapons were sold to Iraq by the French, who sold gas masks to the Iranians at the same time. Israel at this time helped to facilitate the transfers of weapons to Iran because it saw Iraq as a bigger threat than Iran. And of course, the National Security Council of the Reagan administration, in order to finance the drug-dealing Contra rebels who wanted to overthrow the communist Sandinista government itself, having overthrown what was an American-supported, repressive, Somoza-led regime, illegally sold arms to Iran in what would become the Iran-Contra scandal. And as a side note, as history teaches us, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. The Sandinista regime is now a repressive one. If my writing seems confusing and convoluted, it only reflects the confusion and the duplicity that is geopolitics, or rather geopolitics, that diplomats and all the smart people believe is too complicated for us simple folks to understand. And I will add here, what I have said does not mean that I necessarily support the regime in Iran. We all need to do better, all of us, and we all need to respect each other and each other's human rights. And that includes America, that includes Iran, and all the countries upon this earth. In the case of Iran and Israel, in this very recent spate, Israel has aggrieved Iran many times, attempting to poke the bear, so to speak, to elicit a reaction that would start a war and get America involved. America, of course, as in the case of Iraq, would stand to be the biggest loser. Israel has murdered Iranian scientists, blown up its embassy in Syria, killed its guests in its capital following the inauguration of its new president, and the list goes on. Attacking an embassy is an attack on a sovereign state. But of course, making up its own rules, Mr. Netanyahu and his government sees itself as exceptional, chosen by God above the community of nations, and would argue that every state in the Middle East is illegitimate and non-existent. There are no sovereign states, according to Mr. Netanyahu. Of course, this is telegraphing his intention to legitimize his aggression against all these states because, of course, they are illegitimate and they are not sovereign states. Even children could come up with better smokes and mirrors. I am not making this up. Listen to Mr. Netanyahu and his megalomanic, hubristic diatribe or rant at the United Nations and look at his map, he truly believes that he makes the rules of the world, and at this time, with a feckless ICC, a feckless ICJ, and a feckless world, he probably does. When Iran did retaliate, and I say retaliate and not attack, but retaliate, the irresponsible Western media and government stated it as attacks and responded by levying more sanctions on Iran. Welcome to the land of topsy-turvy, where down is up is down, in is out and out is in, left is right and right is left. Welcome to dystopia. By the way, no Muslim or Arab state will be exempt in this murder spree, not even Jordan. Remember now, Mr. Netanyahu never mentions any branch of Islam when he speaks about Judeo-Christian Western civilization. Listen, he mentions Judeo-Christian Western civilization. There is no mention of any branch of Islam. I do not subscribe to conspiracy theory, on either the left or the right or the middle for that matter. I am not supporting any country or group. All live in glass houses and all need to do better. Hezbollah was one of the unintended consequences of the Israeli invasion of Lebanon in 1982. It largely arose out of the need to free itself from the yoke and shackles of brutal subjugation of the colonialist, expansionist enterprise led by Israel when it invaded Lebanon, carrying out and facilitating mass killings and massacres, including the 1982 Sabra and Shatila camp, and fomenting an already simmering sectarian civil strife in Lebanon. This is one of the consequences that arise from oppressing others. No group will remain oppressed. It is inherent in man to yearn to be free of bondage and subjugation and oppression. Once again, for the oppressors, Hezbollah was an unintended consequence. We must not drink the propaganda, the Kool-Aid, that Iran is responsible for Hezbollah. America supports Israel. Iran supports Hezbollah. Most of the groups that Iran supports in Iraq were unintended consequences of the Israeli supported, not in men on the ground or boots on the ground, American invasion of Iraq under false pretenses, and we all know the story. In Yemen, the Houthis are not a creation of Iran. America supports some and Iran supports some. All need to do better and respect human rights of others. And that includes America. We all need to do better. None of these countries can lay claim to the throne of virtue and they do not pretend, most of them, as America, most of the EU, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, and of course the United Kingdom. They lay claim to the throne of virtue. They are pretenders, and they judge others to be on the low ground of their moral high ground. But they're all the same. When they look in that mirror of self-reflection, the image that they see will be the image of the brothers that they judge. This war in Gaza has proven it beyond the shadow of a doubt. I have chosen this war to detail because it is one of prophecy for many reasons. As painful as it is to watch, and for me to say, in my spiritual capacity, it will unfold the way it must. For what is written is written. Mahum maktub, maktub. Kesera, Serah. It is one that is paved with more unintended consequences than most. It exemplifies the most base instincts of mankind, actions that have led to our sojourn on earth. It has utilized every tactic and action that has been documented in wars from the ancient world, both in rhyme, like the tools of surveillance that have replaced the branding irons of slavery and the tattoos of the concentration camps, to verbatim, like the fireballs of the Middle Ages and the sieges that have been a constant. Sieges from Carthage, Jerusalem during the First Crusades, and Leningrad. It represents the very ancient and the very modern, showing us that man has not changed much. Like Von Trotha in Namibia, Von Sass and the Circassian genocide, Dr. Mengele, the Nazis, Unit 731 of the Japanese in China. Israel has used Gaza, the world's largest open-air prison, and the West Bank, the world's largest halfway house, as the live showroom and laboratory, with its people as the guinea pigs and lab rats for its latest weapons of destruction and artificial intelligence and modern surveillance and subjugation tools. The profiteers that are usually the vultures and other scavengers like hyenas and jackals that follow what seems to be a vampire that is revenge, with its loyal foot soldiers of psychopaths and sadists sanctioned by the halls of power, dressed in uniform suits, jeans, t-shirts, and dresses, rejoice at their profits, as published by the Biden administration's amoral and immoral State Department. This war has separated the wheat from the tares and has illuminated the mirror of self-reflection and revealed the true image, once again, of those who claimed unto themselves the throne of virtue. It has shown us that we all live in glass houses and that we all need to do better. It has finally laid to ruins and exposed, shone the light on what was one of the biggest lies spun and perpetuated in history, that Israel was a beacon of light and hope the only democracy in the Middle East, surrounded by what were Arab and Muslim states headed by brutal dictators akin to barbaric and savage, backwards peoples. Hezbollah have more often than not targeted the Israeli military and its assets. Iran, in their retaliatory strikes, have targeted military installation and sites. Israel has targeted civilians and especially children. The Mossad headquarters uses its population to shield itself, so it is nestled next to hospitals and other civilian infrastructure. Well, here we have a clear case of the kettle calling the pot black. Hamas and other entities such as Hezbollah are often blamed when they say that they nestle and embed themselves amongst civilians. What is the difference here? This is a clear case, once again, of the kettle calling the pot black. We all need to do better. Equal opportunity, for we all live in glass houses. This war has revealed many truths and stands as testament to the truth that is reincarnation and its facts, such as war has no descendants. See the details in my books and the details in full on this particular war in the book that will be out in December, Thoughts on the Past. This war, once again, as painful as it is to say, as painful as it is to watch, is providence, filled with many unintended consequences. But better days are coming. Let us now begin with the prophecies and predictions, visions and imaginings. I have to add that this is for entertainment purposes. This is once again a golden opportunity for the big boys and the big girls. Most of the EU and the UK and their allies has with their collective breath loudly said, "Be mindful, Israel, of the civilians in Lebanon." But in whispers, they say, "By all means, Israel, go right ahead and bomb." As Israel and America, remember now, Israel and America have a symbiotic and sometimes parasitic, reversible client-state relationship. Once again, the EU and the UK and their allies has with their collective breath loudly said, "Be mindful of the civilians, Israel." But in whispers they say, "By all means, Israel, go right ahead and bomb." As Israel and America expand its wanton destruction and slaughter spree to Lebanon and beyond, on their way to, or should I say, on their crusade to Iran. They have been promised that in crippling and destroying Iran, they will cut off one of Russia's arms suppliers. Remember now, I'm not advocating for any country. I am just stating facts. Remember, entertainment purposes only. For America, this is the time to settle the score for its decades of humiliation throughout the Middle East and an alternative to the normalization process. Now that America and Israel have shot themselves in the foot with their cravenness and cruelty in the occupied territories. They have now reached, at least America, an angry scorched earth stage where they are prepared to burn it all down. It doesn't matter now. And Israel gives them the back because it already has blown through all red lines. America still has its laws to contend with. And so it will work through the lawless entity that it has allowed Israel to become. Having enabled and abetted Israel over the decades, accelerating in the Clinton years and onwards with Mr. Netanyahu in his different positions in Israeli governments, to flout all and operate above all laws with impunity, crossing all lines of decency and humanity to which civilized nations and human beings should adhere. The United States, now using the cloak of the uncivilized, barbaric monster that it has largely created, to enable it to break its own laws to destroy its enemy. Those in the Biden administration, in consultation with many from the former administration, all neocons, warmongers, and profiteers, believe that they will bring Iran down by decapitating its government and its armed forces, the IRGC, reinstalling the son of the deposed Shah and the entire region of Muslim and Arab states to its knees, pliant to America and the Zionist empire that Mr. Netanyahu is bent on creating. And remember now, Iran alone has more than 80 million people. And all the other states together, they will be pliant. So that's perhaps 200 million, 300 million, 400 million pliant to the state of Israel with perhaps 10 million people. Lebanon was only a dry run. The road is paved with unintended consequences. Oluman a plan for Guma, and Guma a plan for run our belly. For both Israel and the supremacists in the Biden administration, the Palestinians, not worthy of the human in the human animal that they were designated as, are pests to be exterminated in short order. For the Americans, this is once again the time of just desert for Gazans who had voted for Hamas. Still for others, it is a deep hatred of Muslims and the different people groups in the Middle East, not all of them Arabs. And for too many, it is the belief in the cult of Bibi and be damned with the strategic interests of America. Revenge is an out-of-control fire that threatens to consume us all. I explain these actions and beliefs in details through the eyes of the soul, the spiritual, and the deep structure of these actions. Indeed, strange bedfellows do not really exist. They're the same, all the same at heart. In bombing Lebanon, Israel hopes to incite civil strife reminiscent of the 1975 to 2000 years. And like the US hoped to convince the Lebanese people and government, of which Hezbollah and the Shias is an integral part, to eject Hezbollah from its parliament and to disenfranchise a large part of the population, sowing the seeds for discord and unintended consequences of the growth of groups that Israel might regret. The road is paved with unintended consequences. The golden opportunity for Israel here is that it gets all it wants. Mr. Netanyahu has finally hit pay dirt, at least for now. He has been the only winner so far in all of this tragedy. He finally gets his war with Iran. America, as in Iraq, will be the big loser. Mr. Netanyahu, a politician, I still maintain in his ninth life, is back up in the polls. And after all, most of his opposition are barely any different from him. At the end of it all, he has personal benefits to gain in addition to his dream of an illiberal and theocratic fiefdom in which he will be emperor, free to engage in as much corruption as he chooses. He has forgotten about the hostages. They don't matter. And at the end, he will also benefit from at least two sources and a third surprising one. Remember now, this is for entertainment purposes only. I do not give in to conspiracy theories, believe me, as my predictions will show. With the help of America, Israel, in its self-centered selfishness, does not care whether or not in destroying the UN and all its organizations will not be able to serve billions of people around the world, whether it be the World Health Organization, whether it be the different organizations within the UN that serves refugees, so many of them, and especially now climate refugees, as well as those escaping conflict and war. Once again, with the help of America, Israel hopes to succeed, and it's doing everything it can to undermine UNRWA and the entirety of the United Nations. The same United Nations that legitimized the state of Israel. That is what you call exceptionalism. That is what you call you get the use of something, but you make certain that you destroy it so that no one else can benefit. That is equal opportunity. Too many of us are like that. In Jamaica, we call that bad-mindedness. Only you must prosper. Israel has now seized the property of the agency. Israel, once again, with the help of America and their distracting slaughter fest through the region to serve as distraction, Israel now gets a do-over to commit its genocide without the cacophony of coward enablers. But in spite of the cries and protests of a helpless majority of the world and the innocent civilians, especially the children, enduring indescribable, unimaginable starvation, suffering, disease, and death. Israel now has the green light from its enablers to attack Palestinian refugee populations throughout the region, including Lebanon and Syria. Jordan is being saved for last. It now serves the purpose of helping to shoot down missiles. Yes, in other words, Israel has expanded its genocide, not only of the people in Gaza, but all over the region. At least, it will thin out the herd. Their continued existence exposes Israel's shame and that of the rest of the so-called civilized world. This is not unlike those in America who ban books and advocate for the removal of the mention of slavery in history books. However, the pivotal moments in America's history cannot be accounted for, cannot be explained without the account of slavery. Once again, the road in this conflict is paved with unintended consequences. The angel has thrown many stones, but no one is listening. This is the end of the first video of a 2-video series.